Hey Apex Agents, it's Mobius Y here with another video for Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer. This is part 2 of today's character build guide where we are taking a look at the Human Commando. So we've got Firebase 0 and we are playing against the Cat. Pretty easy faction to do something like land headshots with, and you'll see why I like the Hornet. Fairly easily accessible gun, even for newer players. Not necessarily new players, but newer players. If you unlock this gun fairly early into your lifespan, I recommend giving it a shot because it's just really good on weapon-centric classes. Also a pretty dang good gun on casters with its 3-round burst technique. You're not really interrupting your stream of bullets by using your powers. But enough about the Hornet. So this particular game here with the Commando, as I said, the bread and butter with this character is turbocharge, or not this character, but the setup is turbocharge. And before popping that steroid, you have the debuffing effect of warp. Warp will not only debuff armor, but it'll also cause anything you hit with warp to take 15% more damage for the duration of the warp, so over the course of 10 seconds. So if you have your warp and your turbocharge ready to go, and you've got a small group of sub-bosses, or you have a big boss that you need to deal with, you hit them with a warp, you pop your turbocharge, and for the duration of the turbocharge, until it runs off, you are not only dealing extra damage to that target, but that target is also suffering extra damage. So you can really crank out huge chunks of HP, even from big boss units. It's very effective and a very straightforward way to play this character. You'll see me pull out the Scorpion here and there. As I said, I brought it in as a Siphon variant because I don't have a Siphon Hornet quite yet, or at least not at the time I'm recording this. So I wanted a secondary gun where I could regenerate some health while shooting things. You don't see me pull it out very much. I think only about 3 times throughout this game, because it was just so much easier to simply kill things with the Hornet. Being able to gun things down, several things down in a single magazine, even smaller groups of sub-bosses, 2 or 3 sub-bosses, just constantly popping them in the face with bursts of bullets. You see them drop pretty quick, so make sure you land those headshots with this character, or with this particular character setup, I should say, because it will help big time in taking down enemies and just clearing waves much more quickly and making everybody's lives easier. And the Singularity Warp combination for setting off a combo, you can definitely still use it on something like a boss. It'll take a fair chunk of their hit points off, and they'll be debuffed as well. So you Singularity, you warp something, set off your combo, immediately pop your turbocharge while the warp is still in effect on them, and you're still dealing maximum damage that you can in a short amount of time span. This is the only character with turbocharge that has that kind of ability to not just pop its own steroid for cranking out weapon damage, but also for debuffing enemies. It's the only one in the whole game that can do this. It's not the only character, it's not the only turbocharged character in the game that has crowd control, because obviously you have the Turian Havoc Trooper with both Incinerate and Flak Cannon, which are pretty good for crowd control, depending on how you spec them. And you've got the Human Soldier with Concussive Shot, which is very good at crowd control, obviously. But this definitely is a very effective character for setting up crowd control. The only thing that I wish might have been different is this would require sacrificing a huge amount of weapon damage potential. But if this character also got offensive biotics, where there is an upgrade evolution that causes any enemies affected by a biotic by any of your biotic powers to take 30% more damage from all sources. 30%, 20%, one of the two. But they take a pretty significant chunk of additional damage when they're affected by your biotics. Sadly, that's only seen on characters, other characters with Singularity, like the Human Adepts, for example, who can't really make full use of that themselves, but can definitely make can definitely have their allies make really good use of it, help setting up to take down bosses or groups of sub-bosses much more quickly than normal. Nevertheless, it's still a good character. The Human Commando was one of the last characters introduced into the game, and it's been a very popular one since its introduction, simply because it's quite flexible. There's a numerous amount of ways you can build it, and it will still be effective. Any character with turbocharge is not going to suck. There's no simpler way to say it, I suppose. What else was I going to say? Yeah, other weapons that you might want to try on this particular character setup. Honestly, anything. Don't put your weight capacity and over encumber yourself by a huge amount. You can give yourself slightly, like I would say, up to maximum negative 20% encumbrance, but don't overdo it. Don't slap on something like a frickin' Black Widow and a Revenant. I highly recommend against that. That's just silly. Stick to. If you want to bring a bigger, heavier gun with a sidearm, stick to a sidearm that's really nice and lightweight. Something that'll still be useful. Don't bring like something crappy like a phalanx or something like that. Bring something nice and useful that has some kind of utility, like a scorpion, for example. If you want to bring a heavier gun for your main weapon instead of another pistol. Of course, there are the God Sauce pistols like the N7 Hurricane, the Roserad, the Silhash, the usual stuff like that, which are just, good on anything. So you could just bring those and mow everything down like crazy. Even more so if you have Siphon variants of those. But if you do have Siphon variants of those, you've probably been playing this game long enough to not really want to bother with my build guides. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. There's not really much else to say. This particular character setup is really good with most any weapon that doesn't suck total donkey dick, like a phalanx, for example. You could put just about anything on it. I was rocking the Carnifex just a few days ago with this setup, just trying to farm out some Carnifex points, and even that was pretty effective. Surprisingly so, because the Carnifex isn't that great of a gun in this game compared to Mass Effect 3, but it was still serviceable. So enjoy the rest of the gameplay. As I said, if you want to see part 1 of this character build guide, where I go in depth through the build and equipment that I'm using in this exact game, check the link in the description below for part 1 of today's character build guide. This has been Mobius Y for Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Good luck, Apex.